And we're back for another edition of Game Time Tech. I'm Melody Brue. I'm joined by Robert Kramer. We're here to talk sports. What's
Yes.
up, Robert?
I mean, we got a lot going on. We just finished the Olympics and the Super Bowl, and we got a lot going on with Major League Baseball, second halves of the NHL and the NBA, PGA starting up, and we got Formula One. So it has a lot of technology in all those sports, and we'll have to talk about how that's helping or hurting or what it's doing to that particular sport. So I'm excited.
There's a lot going on in sports. I just was in Scottsdale, as you know, for the Ring Central Analyst event, and that spring training was going on there. I then went to San Francisco, and I saw the Lakers play the Warriors, and
Nice.
the Lakers won. And as you know, my son is right in the middle of his college baseball season. So I'm heavily deep into the sports at the moment. And so I find that when we talk about this stuff, then when I watch sports, even just the little technology that happens on my phone, it's called Game Changer. It's how I get to follow the games when my son is playing and I can't be there. The technology behind all of this, for me, makes even watching as a fan more exciting. But quick
At least that's
disclaimer.
available,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, I know. It's really fun. But quick disclaimer, this show is for information and entertainment purposes only. Hopefully will be very entertaining, but we will discuss publicly traded companies and its content should not be taken as investment advice. Although I do think that people should not invest in the company, but invest in paying for the app to do Game Changer if you have baseball players, because it really makes it fun to follow. And it's so realistic. But we're starting off with baseball. So MLB, this is the 2026 season is the first season where MLB is all in on the ABS challenge systems for balls and strikes. So until now, you could challenge plays at the plate on replay, but not in the strike zone, right? So this really turns it so that now hitters, pitchers, and catchers can formally challenge a pitch, and it gets sent to an AI system for a yes and no ruling. What do you think of that?
I mean, I can't believe that they're doing it, but I mean, old school baseball is phenomenal, but it changes the feel of an at bat. You get that helmet tap, you get a brief pause, and everyone in the ballpark is staring at the big board, waiting to see if the strike three stands or it gets overturned, or if there's some more structure that just beyond the arguing that's happening, and there's a replay that's needed to decide if it's the right call or not.
I think what's really fascinating about this is the Hawkeye tracking is doing the tracking and the ABS checking on the pitch against the strike zone that is personalized to that hitter's stance and height, instead of just that kind of generic TV box. So this is really a rules level change because the edges of the zone are more tuned towards the individual. And I think that's, it's so hard because like you look at a game and you see like, no, that didn't look like a strike or that looked like whatever, but you don't see exactly what is behind the plate or what the ump is seeing at all times. And these catchers have gotten very clever with the placement of the glove that makes it look like it was within that zone. But that's going to change for somebody's different height, their stance and everything. And so this really tailors it directly to that particular batter, which I think that's going to drive some consistency there.
Right, but I don't think the fans think in those terms. So they just see that animated pitch graphic and a quick verdict. So
Yeah.
I think that getting them acclimated to that and like you said, specific to the hitter, because it's not just one size fits all, and that's super important. Are we going too far with this? Does it make sense that this actually needs to happen from your perspective?
I think it does. Here's where I stand on this is that I think it pushes a little bit of accountability to the umpires. I don't know if you've seen recent stats of just how many mistakes the umpires can make in a game, and they're not necessarily, doing a bad job, but it's like these balls are going really fast,
Yeah.
and there is a lot of kind of that where the glove placement is, the height of the batter, all of these things. But that pitcher deserves to get it right. And I say that as a baseball fan, as the mom of a baseball player. I think that's just, we do our jobs every day, and we want it to be right. And there are things that check against things like that. Like we have an editor who does fact checking and things like that. We should publish things that are right, just the way that a pitcher should
Point.
get. And same thing for the batter. The batter should have the right call. And there's a really critical piece about this, which is the network. So these tracking measurements and the visuals, they have to move in milliseconds and reliably in a full stadium. And as you know, from anybody who's been in a full stadium knows that the Wi-Fi, it can be horrible. The networks can be jammed. There's just a lot that goes into that. So MLB is running this APS challenge system over a dedicated T-Mobile private 5G network. So it keeps it separate from what fans use for video and social and what's used throughout the stadium. So this is a dedicated pipe that makes these really critical calls.
Well, and I think that's a big shift. So, when the stadium connectivity was just basic Wi-Fi, that was really for the fans and point of sale. Now the network is used pretty extensively, and it can't underperform. You can't have a bad experience. And so it's critical, like you said, from that perspective, it has to be at the level that you're discussing. So if a pitch gets confirmed or overturned, the Wi-Fi is working. Mm-hmm. So it's a big connectivity issue, shift that we're doing here. And I think that it's just going to grow, and it's pretty interesting how they're doing this.
Yeah, if you apply that same philosophy that T-Mobile uses across their network slicing and private G on the enterprise side, so not every workload belongs on the same lane. So with the personalized strike zone, you can kind of look at that as the same as you would look at like different hitters, different zones, just like different apps, different network treatment. So it really makes it kind of very personalized to the game and the player. And that's really where we're going from an enterprise technology standpoint in many ways.
Yeah. And I guess as I'm thinking about this and I'm listening to some of the things that you're talking about, we might be going to this direction also because of the sports betting. So it keeps the umpires honest. A lot of things that have happened in the NBA, but just kind of trying to connect a few dots. But let's move to motorsports, because F1 is a pretty good example of AI moving onto the pit wall. So Oracle and Red Bull have extended their multi-year title partnership. So Oracle Cloud plus Oracle AI will now sit at the heart of Red Bull Ford's 2026 hybrid power unit, and a new AI-powered strategy agent running trackside. What's your thoughts on that?
I heard something like it's like cloud on wheels. I think I really liked that. But you can already see how this is playing out. Red Bull is treating Oracle Cloud as this live on wheels decision engine during races. So they're using the telemetry streams from the car into the cloud. They spin up these high performance simulations in real time, and they're constantly running these kind of if this then what situations, like if we pit now versus 3 laps from now, these scenarios, and they're able to see what's going to happen on the tires, on the energy deployment, track positions, and they're updating on every lap. So it's not like we're not going and evaluating like, well, what went wrong or what went right in this particular race or lap. It's happening like at the very moment. So real-time decisions in very quick decision making kind of necessity moments.
And that's why some of those pit decisions look aggressive but oddly precise. So by the time you hear box, they're already tested that move 1,000 different ways.
Yeah. I think that the data team and race team separation, that line between those two is basically gone. Like strategy is data now, and data is strategy. And the cloud is where they kind of rehearse the race before committing to anything on track. And I really think that the new strategy agent formalizes that as an AI copilot. And I guess in this situation, it kind of is more the copilot, sitting next to you in a race situation. that's really where that time and those quick decision and data really makes a difference.
We've been talking about data and the importance of it for so long, and here it is.
Right? I mean, think about it, like real case scenarios where, like in a retail environment or in a production environment, when things change, or supply chain, when there are weather changes. I mean, we actually, that was one of my favorite, I don't want to get too off the topic of sports, but one of my favorite demos that I've seen is at Oracle AI World, when they showed the weather interruptions in supply chain and how
Mhm.
quickly they can adjust that in real time. It was like, in our jobs, we see a lot of demos. We see a lot of canned demos, real live demos, but every now and then there's one that's like, wow. That's like, it kind of, when it blows your mind, I think that's pretty
It
impressive.
shows the power of data and AI working together and how they can, simulate where you should adjust your supply chain, and that dynamic component is going to help a business be very the difference between winning and losing.
That's exactly the dynamic, like that quick, the in the moment decision making, but also that projecting out what could possibly happen and plan for it. That's where I think there's a lot of power and magic in that. But yeah,
Absolutely.
let's go to Formula E and Google Cloud.
Yeah, so Formula E, if that's the electric version of the Formula One, takes a different angle because Google Cloud is plugged into the series as a whole instead of just one garage. So it's the backbone for how the championship is planned, run, and explained. So
That's interesting that it's like the entire franchise rather than it being an individual car. Um, I think that's, I mean, one for Google, that's great, right? Because there's a whole lot of data there, and that's from a sponsorship partnership, perspective. You've got a lot across all of these different cars. But what they're doing is interesting because they're simulating the whole race weekend plus freight energy use before anybody even moves a car, ships a crate, anything. And this is really critical, as you said, for the electric version. They really brand themselves around efficiency and
mhm.
sustainability. So if you can cut flights and optimize routes and right size all of the power footprint, then they're protecting both the racing product and their environmental promise that they're making.
Right. So then on race day, the same stack is turning timing and telemetry into clear explanations of why a driver is saving energy, and when in attack mode, they're overtake somebody, and that's how it ties back to a broader race plan. And I like how Google is the platform, and it's making uh, things a little bit more energy, like you said, focused and still complex, but easier to follow what they're doing. I'm not sure. Have you seen any of these races, and what's your thought on it?
I have seen some. I've never been to a live event, but from where I see this is that the tech is not just making the racing smarter behind the scenes, it's really helping from a brand standpoint for it to live up to its identity as an efficient electric world championship. And then also that transparency goes to the fans as well. So it gives fans a more transparent view into how and why the racing looks like it does. Just like what we've talked about at the beginning, it's like when you know what's behind something, it can kind of give you like a new view into it. It makes it a little bit more exciting.
That's true. Do you think it's gonna someday get the notoriety of Formula One, or we're so far off we don't know right now?
My prediction is yes, it can, and I think that will depend on the efficiency and the speeds that they can get to with the
Right.
constraints that they have around power consumption. So those are all things that to me, that just makes it a more interesting challenge. And I also think it might draw just a little bit of a different fan base.
Yeah, the data will be a huge component here just because of all the different digital aspects of it, like we talked about. And and if they're all under the same guidelines of how you create a car and then maintain a car and can drive the car, then everything is somewhat equal, and they have to utilize the certain technologies, from an technology and electric technologies to actually move that car at a high speed. So I think it's pretty interesting. I'd love to see it go a little further than it's at now, and actually see one live. So
Yeah. I think there's just so much interesting stuff happening in automotive at the moment, and from an energy consumption standpoint, from to data to even the way that we interact with our vehicles. Like
mhm,
we used to have to push a bunch of buttons to make things happen, and we're getting to the point in some cars, and it'll eventually get to the point where all cars, where you just say turn up the volume or turn down the volume, or because of everything that's happening with generative AI and the processing power at the edge, that we can make these cars be so much not just more efficient, but do more for us. And I said this, I don't know, it's probably like 3 years ago, that I think eventually we will be able to drive through a fast food place or a car wash or parking and not even have to do a thing, because our cars will we will be able to pay with our car. We'll be able to do all kinds of stuff just the same way that we do. Why wouldn't you have that? I mean, I have that sticker that lets me into a particular gate, or it charges my toll tag. So the
good
technology
points.
has existed for a really long time. It's just, where does that information get processed without there being all of these end devices? But with the edge compute, you get to the point where there's more that can happen in the car, and it's safer and more reliable. So I think we're going to see lots of really interesting things happen in the automotive industry in general. But we could talk about that for a really long time too.
Good.
Let's move on to NHL. Hockey is a good contrast, because with the league-wide cameras and tracking that the NHL is implementing, the headline is infrastructure. It's not just this like killer app or something that is a fan experience. The NHL has rolled out a dense grid of high-resolution cameras and tracking tech across every arena, which really turns each rink into this high-fidelity capture environment. I think that's a little bit of like looking into the future, right?
I mean, it's important to separate that from the old glow puck era,
Yes.
So and it's not a gimmicky graphic hovering over the puck. This is a point that they can now see, or the fans can see every play, every hit, every lane from multiple angles at very high quality. So this is, like you said, this is really the next generation of able to see um, different types of broadcasters.
It's a quick moving game, and I know that that's why they had that hockey puck glow thing, but fans didn't like that. And what I
No.
appreciate about the NHL is that they removed it. It wasn't technology for technology's sake. They actually said, "This isn't doing what we thought it was gonna do. We thought it was that fans were gonna appreciate this, and they didn't, and so they took it away." But as this very quick moving and sometimes very dangerous sport becomes more and more popular, and the Olympics certainly helped with that, for better or worse.
Yep.
um, Once you have that capture layer from all of these cameras, a lot becomes possible. So uh, the officials can get better looks on their reviews. There's a lot that can be studied on player safety,
Mhm.
and then coaches, clearly, this is where I think most of this comes from, at least initially, is that coaches can analyze the spacing and coverage and their certain tendencies in a way that they wouldn't have been able to do that just with a few angles or from where they sit within the arena, and even capturing multiple angles. There's just a lot more processing in terms of like all of the data after that. And then again, it's after the fact. This is where they can get things in real time.
Hey, can you imagine being a coach 20, 30 years ago and spending all that time not having, looking at old films constantly, deciding which player you like, basically from looking at just who they played best with, just looking at film after film. So now,
Yes.
they get it all, like you just mentioned, in real time. But as a viewer, you also feel it, and you got to get better replays, a better, immersive camera experience. You get, those low angle shots that you might feel like you're actually on the ice, and you can get smarter, angles and overlays that help track your star player. So this is really something special, and it's exciting because I actually think hockey's one of the best games out there, and like you said, it's so fast. This will actually bring it to the point where you can see it a lot better because in the past, when you look at a hockey game on TV, you're basically looking at just a few different angles, and it's still not as easy to see what we're talking about at that low angle, seeing the players move, see your star player. I think it's fantastic.
Mhm. I think that coaches have it easier in some way and harder in some ways than ever before because there's so much data that they have the access to, but it relies a little bit less on instinct now. And
Mhm.
I, this may really surprise some people, but I was a cheerleading coach for young competitive cheerleaders. And I used to agonize over hours and hours of practice video, of counts, of score sheets that I would reverse engineer. The way that you got to a score used to be of just, performance based alone. And now it's like, well, what can we expect from this team? What can I expect against this particular opponent? Cheerleading is a sort of a team sport, but you're not competing head to head on people, you're competing on final scores. And so there's so much that goes into that kind of intelligence layer that we didn't
Sure.
have. But I think for coaches, it's got to be a great tool, but also a bit, it's a lot to, just like any enterprise technology. It's like, what do you start with? What do you do first?
Right.
What do you implement? How easy is it to implement? And I think with this, to close out on the NHL, is that the league is treating this as a shared platform. So they did the heavy lift on standardizing cameras and tracking across the buildings. So now they can experiment. And so if that's with officiating tools or player development products or new viewing experience, they have the foundation built already.
And I think on that topic, I think it's important not to over engineer some of these decisions, and because you could get caught in that intelligence layer and the data, and not really make your headway. So, and also I think you don't want to hurt, as we talk about a lot, the nostalgia of the game. But
Yeah.
so the MBAs work with, they've been working with AWS is another story, and they have some very cool tracking. And now it's more like having that intelligence layer for the whole sport. So as we head into this, we're in the season, but in this season, AWS, it's its official cloud AI partner. They've launched NBA Inside the Game, powered by AWS. So that's something for this season. So over the last few months, we've had, been able to see this in practice with AI driven stats like shot difficulty, gravity, especially leverage score appearing in the broadcast and NBA digital products. So it looks like AWS is all in with the NBA.
Yeah, they're doing a lot. I think the league is really centralizing this tracking and historical contextual data, and they can generate a lot with it. I mean, all of those things you can get shot difficulty and expected make percentage, and the leverage the scores that capture how much specific plays and lineups actually move the win probability. Again, it's just taking like so many inputs and this data to define what comes next for them. And I think the interesting thing is how this affects broadcasting and what it means for what we've talked a lot about what it means for the coaches and the players and the leagues. Um, in this case, it also means a lot for the fans.
Right. Well, for the broadcast, they're discussing, that if someone takes a certain shot, it's a 25 or 30% look, that they're going to make that shot. But
Mhm.
that's not coming from someone just what they think or their eye test or whatever. It's actually coming from the platform saying this is the probability, blah, blah, blah. So I
Mhm.
think that that's critical to this, to the broadcasting as well.
Yeah, I think the broadcasting stuff that's an interesting angle. I think both for NBA and NFL, I guess really for any sports franchise, but especially the ones that are starting to expand into different regions, different countries. The broadcast and being able to capture all of that and those insights and the the consistency in like the app, website, broadcast, and social content is giving the fans a different experience that really is kind of that inside the game.
Mhm.
And it does that across, from operations to fan experience. So a lot.
Well, they're also doing smart golf, correct, with the PGA Tour. I think that's just one of the new things that's on the radar for AWS this year.
Yeah, golf sometimes stays sort of under the radar and a little bit quieter, but the PGA Tour is expanding work with AWS, and really there's so much data there. We talked about
Oh,
this a long time ago with IBM at the Masters, the amount of data that they have available to them, and it's just a matter of how they use it. So AWS is really helping to turn the tour into a very sophisticated data operation with this.
yeah, I actually met with the PGA Tour when I was at AWS reInvent
Mm.
last year, end of the year, and the amount of data that they have is tremendous, like you're talking about. So decades of scoring history plus live shot by shot tracking, are now in one environment. So all that data and those models can run across, everything together, and you're able to see everything that you might not have in the past. So they're able to crunch those numbers. So with that win probability, the strokes gain breakdowns, and specific information on players. But it's extraordinary the amount of data that they have and what they're able to produce for the fans, produce for the players, and for the broadcasting.
It's really interesting how golf has evolved from being like a sit and relax, not to play it, but to watch it, sit and relax and watch game, to it's moving faster. You see multiple angles and different overlays. You see like the arc of the ball. You see there's just so much more to it. So these tournaments have really become this live data stream. So you can look at it in different depths. And we talked about attracting new fans, that there are fans, the sort of YouTube generation that wants quick, and they want to be able to like just get what they want. And sometimes it's going to be like a scroll through, so it can't be a shot of somebody just meandering up to the green. It has to be action. And so with this, they're able to kind of take this live data stream and look at it into different depths and serve up what people want. So it's great.
Yeah, I think it's going to change. It is changing broadcasting where it's not just, a specific, the main top players that you're watching only. You're going to be able to have it personalized,
Yeah.
and you're going to be able to see different things that you're never able to see before. And that data and the broadcasting, I think, is going to be really a change. They think that they've taken this pretty far to the PGA from a production perspective, and the fans, they're able to get more data than they've ever had before. So I'm curious to see what the app looks like this year. And I mean, the Masters is coming up next month, so that will be a really good showcase of this technology. So
Well, and the Masters, that has been that app alone. I think they got a little crazy last year, if I'm going to be really honest with this. They got a little crazy with the social media influencers and everything. I think the way that IBM has done the Masters app and powered that and made it interesting for all different audiences still maintained the really rich heritage of the
mhm.
Masters. And you feel that in it. And then last year, the Masters, whoever's putting on the main event part of it, or whoever's doing their social, they just had all these influencers everywhere. And it was like everything that came up was like these influencers doing like a fit check at the Masters. And I think it took
Hmm.
something away from that. I didn't love that part of it. That was not in the IBM app, just to be clear. But I hope that they maintain some of that tradition of the Masters being, keep it the way it is. I love so many of these changes across sports, and the through line that there is so many reasons for enterprises to be in sports beyond just the logo and the branding, but because these are these massive high pressure environments where you can prove out things like cloud and AI and network technology at scale. and build the brand, but test these new capabilities in these, massive environments, which, like I said before, it helps me I enjoy the game more when I have a little bit of a glimpse into what's behind it.
Yeah, I think everything you just said, but it can't be overdone. The technology is supposed to influence the game to create standards, give data to the teams or the players, and the league and the fans. So, and I think one of what we haven't talked about a lot is I think it creates standards that everybody gets the same information, and I think that that's helpful to bring these leagues or industries of sports to a certain level. But I'm afraid in some cases it does take it a little too far, and I'm not sure where the rubber meets the road. When do you stop it? Like I think in baseball, the balls and strikes. We both said what we said, but the where do you stop in Formula One? Where do you stop in the NHL? Do we just need the data and health of the players, or how far do you really go, and what the fans need at the same time too?
Hopefully that becomes something that when, like, the NHL reversed a decision to have a particular technology because it just wasn't working. So hopefully people will kind of analyze that in real time the way that we do with any technology we're using. Like, I don't like this particular speaker or this camera. I'm going to not use it anymore. It's just like, let's not be too attached to
Good
things, right?
points.
But then also just the number of channels available to sports fans and the way that we can consume sports is really evolving to the point where people really have a choice in what they're viewing and what they're consuming. And so maybe you don't want that overlay, but somebody does. And
Mhm.
maybe you don't want to necessarily know the probability that that shot is going to go in at the ninth green, but somebody does. We all can kind of get a more personalized choice of what we see, what broadcasts we watch, kind of what channels and like in terms of digital or television or whatever channels we want to be on to consume this content, it becomes a choice. And that personalization and this data, and not just the data about the sport, but about the viewers, helps companies to make, and these franchises to make decisions that kind of serve each individual viewer, right?
I mean, well said. So across
Every now and then
everything,
it happens.
yeah. So across all these Formula One, Formula E, the NHL, the NBA, the PGA Tour, you see a shift. Technology's involved. Technology's not just that overlay anymore. So it's helping with the races, the outcomes, the games, the umpiring, and the health of the players, and everything that we can do to make the fans appreciate the sport a little bit more. So
Good stuff, as always. Fun stuff to talk about, and we will keep tracking all of these. And what's the next big sporting event you're going to go to? You have anything planned?
what am I doing? No, I'm just going to be watching probably the Masters, and no sporting events. I used to be go to the St. Louis Cardinals stuff all the time, and the Blues and
Got
stuff like.
their stuff on. Yeah.
So I don't have any coming up. I know that you were just at one with your son is a pitcher in college.
Yes.
Anything going on with that you want to bring up?
I will actually be going to one of his games in the beginning of April in the Bay Area. But we did go to the Warriors game last weekend, which was lovely. And I don't know I really wish that I had gone to some of the spring training stuff when I was in Arizona, but we were so busy. But I would love to do that sometime. And I think there's a lot of MLB stuff that's coming up that I'm really interested in. And often we just end up getting to go to these games because we're there we take advantage in my family. We take advantage of stuff like that. Like if we happen to be in Arizona for a baseball tournament, we'll go to whatever. It doesn't matter if we like the team or not. We go. It's like for me, we go to as many things
Fun
as
experience.
it's fun. I love being at a ballpark and doing all of that. So I'm lucky that I get to see Trevor play, and lucky that he's doing so well. As you saw, he had a what they call it, clear the side, 3 up, 3 down, 3 strikeouts in one inning last night.
Fantastic.
It was So awesome. Super proud of him. That was really exciting. And Nathan caught a 5-pound fish yesterday. So we were like the sporting family yesterday. But no one here needs to hear all about my kids sporting. But I know you understand because you're the dad of an athlete. Your
Yep.
kids play college golf. It's a big deal.
Yeah, big deal. Played Division One golf, and all the technology that we're talking about. He didn't have a lot of access to it, but it does help, with it's everything's a game of inches. So these technology uh, innovations that happen can aid a player from understanding what ball to use, what club to use, like clubs, like type of clubs,
Yes.
and and what type of shoes that that your balance is better on. And putting all those together and deciding what to do based upon what environment you're in. If is it cold, is it hot, is it raining, whatever. These things make a difference between winning and losing, and probably not the best players in the world, but the players that really are grinding it out.
Here's a topic for us for next time is the use of AR in preparing these players for various environments. I had a really interesting conversation about that at the Ring Central analyst event with the head of technology for the Cubs. It's fascinating. So we're going to talk about that next
I
time.
would love that.
So
Sounds
you're going to
great.
have to join us next time as we talk about that and many other things. But this one's a little bit of a long one. Sorry, we kind of just got into some fun topics, and this is exciting, fun stuff. But thank you for joining us. As always, please let us know if there's anything you'd like to hear about, any technologies you think we're missing out on, or just any other feedback in general. Thanks for joining us. Good to see you as always, Robert, and we'll see you
Thank
all next time.
you.